Do you know that strange, crazy, mad dream that you have from time to time? Or that you had just last night? Or that you don't want to have again because it frightens you? Dreams kind of fall into those categories. There's the normal run-of-the-mill dreams that mean absolutely nothing. And then there's the one that you wake up and you go, why was my mother driving an ambulance? Or why did my uncle have a swimming pool with a purple horse in it? Those kind of silly dreams. I'm exaggerating, of course I am. I do remember dreaming one time of driving out the Blackrock Road. I was driving out the Blackrock Road in my little car, and a fire engine came ahead of me. And as I went to get out of the way of the fire engine, my mother was driving it. My mother was driving the fire engine. My mother's nearly 84. She's not driving fire engines, but she was driving this one. But that was a weird dream, and I woke up, what the hell was that? We all have dreams like that. Some of them frighten people. Maybe we can help you with that. Or maybe we can get into what they actually mean when you see, it's like people you know in very strange circumstances. We start with the principle of every dream has a meaning, or maybe even the basic question, what is a dream? And that's where I shall bring in Teresa Anderson, who is a dream interpreter, and we'll go through some of the stuff I was talking about there, and some people will send in their dreams to 083 396 96 96. Teresa Anderson, good morning to you, or you're in Australia, so it's good evening to you now.
It's good evening for me and good morning for you.
What part are you in?
I'm in Tasmania, so the little state island that, right at the bottom of Australia, there's a little island called Tasmania. On the way to
they call it,
Antarctica.
yeah.
So it's beautiful. It's not the hot, humid Australia that people in Ireland imagine. It's quite temperate and lovely and pristine, and it's a big secret. Yeah.
we're jealous already. I spoke to a man from Cork during the COVID times who was living in Tassie, and he said they'd never even seen a case, which was just remarkable. Anyway,
that's true.
Let's start with dreams, Jane. What is a dream?
Well, a dream is the experience you have at night when your mind is processing your recent experiences. So basically, while you're asleep, your brain and your mind are processing what happened in the day or two beforehand. Not only the conscious things, the things you were really aware of, but also those little unconscious things, the things that slide by the side of your eye, or the emotions that you feel but you try to press down. And your dreamy mind is processing these, and the idea is supposed to be that you wake up in the morning with a kind of slightly adjusted, perhaps wiser view of the world. So it's a bit like updating your mindset. It's a bit like updating your software.
It's a reboot of your brain, so to speak.
It's a reboot, yes. But the odd thing is that that reboot doesn't look like the experiences you had in the last couple of days. It looks really weird. And that's because the front part of your brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that usually keeps everything very sensible and under control and edited, that part of your brain isn't really working much when you're asleep. It's pretty inactive. So it's left to the rest of your brain to kind of paint pictures of what these feelings and experiences that you're processing are like. And that's why it can seem pretty weird. But when you know how to look at that weirdness, you work back from that. And what you get is a picture of how your individual mindset is processing your life. It gives you an idea of the kind of programming you've got, the kind of beliefs that you took on when you were young.
The C103 has been...
Thoughts.
Go ahead.
The kind of unconscious thoughts that might be affecting the way that you are in life. So it gives you a great insight into how your unconscious mind is sometimes controlling your life.
And is that why you would see very familiar things, familiar places, familiar people, and totally in totally unfamiliar circumstances?
It is, yeah. I mean, sometimes you'll find in your dream that you're back at school or you're back at a childhood home, and you might think, well, hang on a minute, I'm processing the last couple of days. How come my childhood home or an old teacher or someone's come up? And that's because something that happened in the last day or two kind of touched upon or reminded you of that time back then. So that will come in. But also, people that you know or that you don't really know, but you know of, can come into your dream. And that will probably be because they remind you of something. So if, for example, you were going about your day and you had an experience where you were a bit envious of someone, for example, and
Mm.
you're asleep and your brain's trying to process this feeling of envy, your dreaming mind might bring in someone that you know that is an envious kind of person, or it might bring in someone that you're a bit envious about. And that person is your dreaming mind's symbol of, okay, let's have this person represent envy. Let's process this feeling. Let's see how this goes.
Mm. Situations that you would, you kind of, when you wake up, you go, oh God, thank God that didn't happen. Like, you know, the silly one, like getting on the bus and realizing you don't have any trousers on. Like, that's never going to happen in real life, but it happens in dreams. Why?
It happens in dreams because our dreams love a bit of drama and a bit of humor sometimes. So you take a dream like that, which I'm sure nearly everybody listening has had, getting on the bus without realizing that you haven't got all your clothes on. And so you sort of stand a long way back from that and say, what's the sort of general feel of that dream? It's, oh my God, I'm in a public space and I'm feeling a bit ashamed, or I'm feeling a bit vulnerable, or people can see the real me.
Mm.
And so that dream will often be your dreamy mind's way of getting across that message. Somewhere in the last day or two, you were feeling a bit vulnerable in public. You were feeling a bit unprotected, a bit maybe a bit embarrassed about something. And although that sounds really obvious, when you say it to someone who's had that dream, they will usually quite quickly go, yeah, I can actually relate to that. That happened in the last couple of days. But again, because that kind of logical part of the brain is switched off, it's the rest of the brain's kind of almost fun way of expressing the same feeling.
Mm. There's one I get from time to time about what I'm doing here now. And in that dream, I come in and I'm all set and I've got my notes and my scripts and everything is in front of me. And then I start to talk and I can't remember where I am, what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to say. And I'm literally sitting here staring out the window with nothing coming out. That's what, and that happens from time to time, you know.
One of the functions of our dreams is to either solve problems or to prepare for the future, to kind of go through our paces, to go through our practice. So in a sense, we do that with work. Sometimes we're either solving a problem or we're going through, yes, this is what happens if I have my notes. This is what happens if I haven't got my notes. How do I deal with this? So on one level, it's your dream trying that out. On the other level, sometimes our dreams use, say, a work situation to run past or process something that's actually not about work at all, but it chooses that scenario. So it could be another situation in your life where you're exploring. Sometimes I don't feel quite prepared for this, that, or the other. How do I handle it? Sometimes in a situation, I can't quite find the words that I want to say. Usually, that kind of dream belongs to someone that always gets it right, as you do, always has the right words, and if you lost your notes, would manage anyway. So from that perspective, that kind of dream, which is very common and we all have it, but that kind of dream can also mean that, questioning why it is that you always want to get everything just right and just perfect and make sure it all works. And the dreaming mind's going, well, what if it didn't? What if you couldn't find the words? What would you do next? So it's kind of exploring those feelings.
Tom dreams of his dad, and Tom's dad died during the pandemic. And Tom wakes up from these dreams feeling very guilty about it. And he's wondering, where's the problem? Because his dad and himself got on really, really well. They were very, very close. And he had nothing to do with his dad's death. But he wakes up after the dream feeling very, very guilty. Can you address that one for Tom?
Yes, I can, yeah. So that the tricky thing is when a dream is really weird, like pink elephants flying with jingle bells, it's easy to say, oh, that's symbolic and explain it. If the dream feels close to home, it can be really hard to kind of pull yourself away from that and say, actually, it's not what it seems, it's symbolic. So probably what's happening for Tom is it's not about his father at all. It's about his father represents something about Tom, a part of Tom. Now, we all have a part of ourselves that's like our father or like our mother, because we just do. We kind of run our lives according to some of our programming there. So it's possible that Tom is dreaming about some part of himself that he feels guilty that he's letting die off. In other words, not speaking from, not bringing to life. So if Tom, usually I spend an hour to really get down to a dream with people. This
Of
is just
course.
tip of the iceberg stuff. But really it's like, what is it about my father within me that I'm perhaps not really feeding and nurturing, that I would like to bring to life, and I'm feeling a bit guilty about that.
Okay, so maybe he says they were very close. Maybe there was some personality trait of his dad that he wishes he had more of. Is that what you're thinking?
That's right, and that he's not showing, and therefore feeling a bit guilty about it. So let's take an example. This won't be it. This isn't Tom's story, but say if his father was, I don't know, really keen to run a business and really wanted to do well in life, and maybe there's a part of Tom that is like that but isn't doing it, then he might dream, oh, I'm feeling guilty because I'm letting that part of myself die off instead of bringing it to life.
Mary has an upsetting dream, and it's that one of her children dies. And it's always the same child. And it's terrifying.
Do we know if it's the... Yeah, I bet. Do we know if it's like the oldest or the youngest? Do we know anything about which position the child is in the family?
I don't, but she says the child is now grown up, but she still dreams of this child dying. She has more than one child, but she dreams of this child dying. And
this particular child.
Her.
Yeah, very upsetting. I'm going to say two things to help out here. One is, again, to have that feeling of Mary has a number of children. What is if she thinks to herself, what is the personality of that particular child? What is it about that child that I'm frightened? Again, a bit like Tom's, that I'm frightened I'm going to lose within myself. It's not about losing a child. It's a part of the self. If I explain that in a different way, if we have a dream about a tiny baby and it's not one of our own children, and that baby, we maybe realize that, oh, we forgot to feed it, we forgot to look after it. That can be a part of ourselves that we are forgetting to feed, forgetting to look after. We've all got these parts. And sometimes we put our children's faces on them. So number one for Mary is not to worry. It's not that her child is going to die. This isn't a precognitive dream. It's her dreaming mind's way of drawing attention to something within herself that she, perhaps like Tom, should give some life to. And the other thing to say for any disturbing dream is that it can help when you wake up to, before anything else, if you're not sure how to interpret it, to stay awake, but to simply change the ending in a good way. So, for example, with Mary, to begin the dream, then say, oh, look, my child's hasn't died at all. In fact, they're very much alive and they're doing something really exciting. So kind of to change the story of the dream. And two things will happen. Over a long period of time, the dream will stop because you're programming it to change. And at another level, you're kind of telling your unconscious mind, no, I am going to give this thing life. Whatever it is my child represents in my dream, I'm going to give it life. So by changing the dream, you're kind of programming yourself.
So even in the waking moments, after you've had the difficult dream, you can tell yourself that will not happen again. That's not going to work out that way. Everything's going to be okay. And is your subconscious listening then?
It's super listening, because instead of speaking to it in everyday language, language of your conscious mind, you're speaking back to it in its own language. Your unconscious mind's own language is the language that speaks in dreams. Your unconscious mind will speak about, I keep using the example, but a flying pig or a plant's growing. And so you talk to the dream in its own language by visualizing that storyline, but changing it. You're in direct communication with your unconscious mind. And when you awake and you change the version of your dream, you're changing your unconscious mind. You're talking to it.
I wanted to touch on premonition for a minute. And there are people convinced that they dream about someone is going to get sick, or they dream about I'm going to win something, or they dream. Can we have premonitions in our dreams?
It's such an interesting question, because sometimes it appears that we do, particularly on that illness aspect. We just know from Tom's dream and Mary's dream that it's actually very common to dream of family members dying. It is so common. And a lot of people don't mention it because they're frightened that if they say it, it will happen, which is not true.
Yes.
So we know it's a common dream. But sometimes also it appears that we dream of someone who's sick and they're not sick that we know of, and then they die shortly after. And so that question comes up, was that one of my normal death dreams, or was that a prediction? And I have at one stage in my life had a number of dreams in that kind of category, so much so that I went and did a lot of research and wrote a book which was published by Random House a long time ago called The Shape of Things to Come. But basically, one of the things I noticed was that when people said, no, I dreamt this and it really happened, look, here are all the details and it was exactly as it was in my dream, it would normally happen between 2 and 10 days later. And what I surmised from that is that you were kind of tuning into your dream, not so much into the future, into what was happening now. So when someone's sick, you're tuning into the fact that they're sick, even though they don't even know that they're sick at the moment. And then the dream may be projecting and seeing them dying. That kind of
Okay.
look.
Which can again be
Yeah.
upsetting. Um,
Yes, very.
the silly
And on that note, I'm sorry to interrupt. On that note, I please would love to reassure everybody listening to not be upset about these dreams. So first of all, look at the symbolic meaning, because that's 99.9% what it means.
Okay, and you can tell yourself to change the dream, even in a conscious moment. You can tell yourself that ending will be different the next time.
Yes, when you're
Okay.
awake, you do that very firmly.
Now, just a couple of more things, and this is purely personal here. There are nights, I know we're all dream at different levels every night. Sometimes I've had very vivid. Why are dreams more vivid sometimes, and not vivid on
Yeah.
other times?
Sometimes it's because we remember the dreams more on those nights, but mostly it's because the vivid dreams usually have high emotion, don't they? Really high emotion in the dream and heightened colours. So if we either have had a couple of days where we've been experiencing a lot of emotional stuff, for good or for bad, or for a lot of emotional stuff, then your dreaming mind is going to be processing that and they're vivid. The other kind of aspect of that is, there's times when we go through life and it's, yes, same, and then we go through some changes and then it's same. When we tend to go through changes, that's giving our dreaming mind a lot to process. And those dreams can be vivid because there's a lot happening, a lot to process, but also because when we go through change, for good or for bad, that's usually highly emotional too. So high emotion, lots to process, times of change.
Okay, two more for you. The vivid one. I have one vivid one. I don't have it that often, but I have had it. I'm driving near my house. I'm not in any hurry, and I come across a fire engine coming at me at the opposite direction. My mother is driving the fire engine. My mother's nearly 84. Her days of driving anything other than fire engines.
Do you have a feeling in the dream that you're going to crash, or is she going?
No.
What's your feeling as she's coming towards you?
No, she's just coming towards me driving a fire engine. What the hell is she doing there?
So what would you say was the energy of the fire engine?
It was rushing to get somewhere.
Right, okay. So it could be, and again, I normally spend an hour with people for a dream. It could
Sure.
be that, do you see those two opposites in your dream? You said, I'm just driving along slowly, and the fire engine, like it's rushing to go somewhere. So if you look at a dream and you see two opposites, it's usually because you're kind of wrangling two opposites in life and trying to find a middle path. So it probably comes up at times when part of you wants to take things slowly, and another part of you wants to just rush at this thing, and I want to just rush at everything. And maybe or maybe not, there's a bit of your mum that's like that. So in the dream, you're trying to confront this kind of part of yourself that might want to rush into things, and another part of yourself that wants to take things slow. And that's something to think about in the morning. Does that make sense?
It does. And lastly, Sheila has been on. She said, PJ, I have a dream where I walk into a room and I'm looking around and they're all members of my family are in the room, and then their dream is over and I can't return to it. It always stops at the same time. I want to know what happens next.
Oh, that's so frustrating, isn't it? It's so frustrating. Again, one little tip is that you can, while you're awake, make something happen next.
Right.
Because if it's a recurring dream, what Sheila's then doing is encouraging the dream to continue a bit. But I would want to ask Sheila, what happened for the dream to stop, or in the dream, did everyone look at her?
It stopped before she found out why they were all there.
Okay, so it could be reflecting something in her waking life that she's trying to find out, but she can't quite get the solution. It's like, I'm this close to understanding something, and it might be about family. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm this close to something, and I can't quite get there. So if she thinks about that, there might be something that triggers her mind in the couple of days before that. Something within Sheila is probably, and it might be unconscious, is probably stopping her just when she's about to get something happening.
Okay. Jane, I know that people can contact you themselves and you do more detailed readings for them. Where can they get you?
Best place is to go to my website. So the address for that is janeteresa.com. That's Teresa without an H, janeteresa.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Delighted to have you on. We might talk again because we constantly dream and the dreams keep coming back sometimes. Thank you very much. Jane Teresa Anderson, based in Tasmania, a dream interpreter. Got one or two nice ones in there. If there's any dream that's troubling you or that you want to talk to her about, Jane Teresa, there's no H in the Teresa, janeteresa.com. And we thank her for being with us today. They're weird things. They're very, very weird. I've told you about some of my mad ones that I have. You know, the purple horses in a swimming pool, that's just crackers. That's not my one. That's somebody else's one. But there's a reason for every dream. It's your subconscious mind. And the one you learned from it there is if a dream is ending in a way you don't like, if a dream is upsetting you, the minute you wake up and you're upset by the dream, tell yourself, tell your conscious mind, tell your subconscious mind, that will not happen again. That dream will not end that way. There will be a better ending in that dream.